Hello, friends, and welcome to the Big Black Bear podcast, episode 4. I'm very, very happy to say, especially with the way I'm feeling, one of the best things to do is to turn the Zoom camera on and see the face of one of the nicest people you're ever going to possibly meet on the internet. I mean, the weird thing is I've never actually met this gentleman in person. We've only ever met, since COVID, I probably is online, but he's an author, he's a podcaster, he's a producer, and officially the nicest man on the internet. Giles Paley-Phillips is with me. Hello, Giles.
Hi, Pav. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I feel like this is going to be a counselling session, this one.
Yeah,
so
well, that's good.
apologise.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
I apologise for things like that. So just as a little background for me, I've had a bad few weeks. I don't know whether it's you, because you're somebody that is very proactive, aren't you? I mean, I didn't realise quite how many podcasts and things that you're involved in. How many are you involved in at the moment?
Oh, goodness. I mean, ones that I produce, ones that I host myself at the moment, only 2, because unfortunately we've seen the demise of Blank in the last few weeks, which has been it's been kind of upsetting. But yeah, I produce loads for other people. So, goodness, at the moment, probably about 6 or 7 I think I do, like working on as a producer and doing bits of edits and stuff like that. It's the kind of day jobby stuff that you have to kind of do, which is a very nice day job. I'm not knocking it at all. It's but it's that kind of stuff that you just pays the rent and all that.
And that's coming up with the ideas of it and as well. And
some really, yeah. Some of it's stuff that's already been established that I've come on to help with, and then other stuff, I do stuff for a marketing company, and I help them with. It's like an extension of their sort of marketing arm. So they offer like podcasts as a, it's a way of creating lots of content for people these days. So, if you've got a brand or a business that you want to like get information out there, then you have a conversation with your clients or your businesses that you work with, and then you've got all that social media content that you can pull out of it. So it's good. It's really interesting.
Yeah. Well, because one thing I was thinking, especially in the way I've been going through this, I'll call it a depression for the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks. And it's weird that when a couple of weeks ago, the first thing I thought about was, I want to start a podcast about this. And it was the one positive thing out of everything that was going through my mind. Now, I'm of a different level, and I don't mean a higher level than you, Giles, because podcasting and things like that, that's your job. I do it as a hobby, as a thing that I enjoy, where you do it, this is, like you said, it pays the rent. So if you're not having 100%, or, to be honest, I would take a 55% positive day at the moment, how do you deal with that? Because for me, I can go, as I have done, and I'll come to a bit more in detail of that later, but I've messaged people and said, I'm just not up to it. I can't do it today. And there's no, I don't want to say paymaster, because that makes it sound very official, but there's no one above me going, hang on a minute, we're paying you for this. How do you deal with that when it's part of, like you say, your actual day job?
Yeah, it's so tricky, because like any job, when it's a job, you kind of I haven't got an HR department that I can go to and say, by the way, I'm not feeling quite up to it today. There have been times where like if I'm not in a good way, then I can reach out to the people that I have to invoice and say, look, I can't do it for whatever reason. But for the most part, it's I'm not going to get any sick pay or anything, so I need to like crack on, and I can't really take mental health days or anything like that. Really, you just have to kind of go in there and do it, and yes, that can be very challenging. It can be very challenging, especially like I suppose particularly if you're like kind of being the host and stuff. There's been episodes of Blank where I've not been in the best place, but what I found, and this is one of the great things about podcasting, is and I think because having a connection with someone, talking to someone, even if you're talking about something completely different, not talking about mental health issues, I think just having that connection and being in there talking to people, that kind of eases the pain in some way. I think just having that, I think we're such social animals, like having that opportunity to talk to someone. And I will 100% say that, and this happens a lot with Sophie and I have been doing this podcast, Unquestionable, all the time. There'll be something going on in one of our lives, or something that we've been discussing that we've had going on together, and it was the very subject or the very area that we're concerned about or have a problem with will suddenly appear to us, even in a conversation, or it'd be something from a previous podcast that we were editing. We'd be like, oh my God, like that, we were talking about that very thing. There's been times where we've been in doing an interview and we've been discussing some issue, some like anxiety issue or mental health or whatever, or not having an argument with someone or whatever, or putting up boundaries, whatever it might be. And we'll be in the interview, having an interview, and that subject will come up, like magically just come up, and we'll get some, I don't know, some amazing moment of realization, or someone will say something really poignant and you're like, oh, fuck, yeah, I really needed to hear that today. So, I mean, going back to the idea of podcasting as being something actually, sometimes it's difficult to do when you're in a difficult place or having a challenging time. Actually, often it has brought out moments where you're like, oh, okay, I can reflect on how I'm feeling. And actually, that's really been very useful for me. Comforting, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I've found over the last couple of weeks, things like the other podcast that we do, the top 10 one, it takes your brain completely out of everything. And the other weird thing is that, like, the last week I've been suffering from kidney stones. I haven't thought about my depression once in that week, because every time I think about something, it's this throbbing pain in my side. So it's weird how your brain will, I mean, I don't think I compartmentalise stuff well enough. I layer it on, and I keep layering it on and layering it on until it eventually, like, the bow breaks, and then just the badness, and the big black bear comes and the claws are in my back, and that's it. Whereas I feel like you're quite good at compartmenting. Like, my wife is amazing at, like, saying, right, that doesn't matter at the moment, let's put this to one side and worry about it another time, and let's concentrate on the job in hand. I can't do that. And I think when you do things, and I think that's another reason why I get so down when I have to cancel, whether it's a singing gig or whether it's a podcast, because I know that little sliver of 2 to 3 hours, my brain will be filled with something else apart from the pain, whether physically or mentally, that I'm going through at that time. Do you feel that's right? Do you compartmentalize things well, do you feel, or?
Do I? I don't know, actually. I think, same with my wife, she's very good at doing that as well, and is very good at sort of getting me to see that more. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I do better than I actually think I do. I wouldn't have said I was good at doing that, but you don't know, I suppose, when you're in the moment of stuff. Maybe you do find another layer. It's interesting you say about music as well, because I think that's really hard when you're having to say no to music stuff, because I feel like music's such a healing process. And I think, if you're not able to do those things that you love, then that's really hard. And I really feel for you in those moments, because I know, for me, like, when I'm in a difficult place, the things I turn to are those things that I love. Specifically, whether it is like just listening to music or whatever it might be, and that's a funny thing about depression, that it kind of, your only focus is like on, for me, it's often like just ruminating stuff, just these ruminations just continually going round and round and round about whatever might be going on in my life at that point. And and your focus goes away from all those things that you love, and actually the things that you love doing and all those things are actually exactly what you need at that moment. It's the fucking absolutely, I don't know, I'm swearing a lot.
You can swear now.
It's the fucking
you can say what you want.
It's the irony, though, isn't it? It's the dreaded irony of these things, that the things that we actually desire the most in those moments are the things that we can't get to, or don't allow ourselves to get to.
But also, see, I find I get very, very emotional when it comes to music, whether I'm in a depression or whether I'm not. I will cry at songs at the drop of a hat, or my bottom lip will just start quivering. And it's a double-edged sword, because I've had times where I haven't been able to physically sing a song out loud because I get emotional. Maybe my family's there, or maybe a couple of my kids are at a venue where I'm singing. There'll be times when I can feel the emotion getting caught up in my throat, and I did feel, because I was supposed to sing as we're recording this tonight, and I had to cancel, and the whole emotional guilt of letting everybody down. And then the thing that I am, like my wife will say I'm famous for, is putting my thoughts from someone else's mind. I'm thinking that they get my message saying I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to do it, and then go, well, we'll never fucking have him again. What a waste of fucking space. What a pain in the ass for letting us down in the last minute. They'll send me a message back saying, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I hope you're okay, you just get yourself right. And all I can think in my mind's eye is them typing it through gritted teeth going, fucking asshole, fucking let us down, I can't believe it. When I know that they're not, but in my mind, that's exactly what I'm thinking that they're doing.
Yeah, it's mind reading. So I did a course of CBT recently, which has been amazing, and I can highly recommend it if you've never done. That came up a lot, like mind reading, and you're just second guessing everything what everyone else is thinking, and it's never what you think it is in your head.
No,
it's literally never ever what you think in your head. It might be like, you get a call from the boss to come and have a meeting, and you're like, oh shit, like what did I do wrong? Maybe they're letting me go, or whatever it might be. And then you go in and it's like, oh, actually we just want you to do more hours, or whatever it might be. It's never ever the thing that you do, and that's again for me is the rumination. I just ruminate on those things, and I'm sure you're the same.
Yeah.
And you just think, we just go straight to like catastrophizing the worst possible situation. For you, like thinking that, oh, they're never going to want me to sing again. They're never, that could be my last gig. And it's
I never even thought of that. Oh, Giles, thanks for that.
Sorry. No, but sorry.
I'm only joking.
But it's that thing. Those are the things, because that's the things I think as well. I totally get it, because I go there as well. I'm a terrible catastrophizer.
Yeah.
Always working in worst case scenarios. Which in some situation is you can be quite a positive thing if you think, if I think that thing's not going to happen, then I won't. It'll mean that I won't end up feeling shitty about it if it doesn't happen, or whatever it might be. But then at the same time, when you're in the position where you feel like you are letting people down, or you're, I'm a terrible people pleaser, so I feel like I'm letting people down constantly.
Yeah, it's felt like that for me, like literally hour by hour over the last 5 or 6 days. Well, the last 3 or 4 days, especially. Yesterday was for some reason, a really bad emotional day. I was like, every time my wife asked me a question, I just was like crying, and it was just like, because I knew where it was coming from, because it was just the fact that I was feeling with this whole kidney stone thing. I thought during the night that I'd passed the stone, because I've been, and it's a bit graphic, sorry everyone, but I've been weeing into a sieve for the last 48 hours since I've went to the hospital, and they said just check it, make sure everything's okay, and there was something during one of these wheeze. So my mind straight away, as I was walking back to bed, thought, that's it. I'm over it now. And then I had the worst night of pain that night, and I never got any sleep. And then my wife was very compartmentalized, was saying, well, that's probably your kidneys just, getting themselves back to normal. Don't worry about it. But since then, it's been a constant, I would say the pain now is about a 3 or 4, so that's not too bad. But I know that it's got to start working itself back to being normal again. And it just gets to that point where I think you get to that low ebb, and everything and anything will make you emotional, and it is that constant layering of, I had another podcast I was supposed to do on Friday that I had to cancel. I had a dinner date with a friend a friend on Thursday that I had to cancel. So all these things that you're cancelling, that mind transference of they're all disappointed with me, where they're not. Every one of them sent a message back, you just make sure you get yourself right, you make sure you get yourself good and back to fighting fitness, and then we can always do it another time. And that's, I think, exactly, the thing is it's never like you just said about, well, that could be the last gig. It's not. There'll be another gig. There'll be another dinner date. Yeah. There's always another tomorrow kind of thing. But in regard, I'm sort of fascinated with the fact that, again, I can be, as much as I'm not relaxed, I can be quite relaxed about sending a message and saying I can't sing tonight, I'm terribly sorry. It must add pressure, because I mean, you as a self-employed person, having to go through the whole rigmarole of COVID to start with must have been, for your mental health, a massive strain.
Yeah, it was, but also actually, ironically, I was really busy over COVID, so I didn't. There was lots of elements of the COVID period were actually obviously they were incredibly challenging for everybody. As a family, we really figured ourselves out a lot. Like, as in, and what I mean is that we kind of figured out how we all tick. Now, I realised the thing that I've struggled with is because I love going and talking to people. There's a little cafe in my town that I go every day. I go and chat to people. I love talking to people. I love having, I think always thought that I was probably a bit of an introvert, because I used to be a shy kid and blah blah blah. But I'm not. I'm a massive extrovert. I need people all the time. I need to see people. I'm the person who's at the end of the party going, "Oh, where are we going next?" I'm like, come on, let's keep going. And I realized that the rest of the family are massive introverts. Like, my wife's a big introvert. My kids are really big introverts. And so for us, we kind of worked out how we all kind of go about our days. And I think, so that side of stuff I struggled with because I couldn't see people. But with regards to work and stuff, actually, I ended up being a lot busier, and loads of people started podcasts in COVID.
They sure did. You're absolutely
so
right
actually, yeah. So for me, those things, and actually, I got on with doing a lot of writing, and there was lots of things I could do. So work-wise, it wasn't challenging, but I did find the social stuff challenging, and that it was good to figure that stuff out, but it was also very challenging not being able to go and see people and hang out and stuff like that. That stuff I really struggled with. And I know that stuff does affect me, in which I have to go and do. I have to go to this cafe every day because and I've got to know all the staff, and I've become friends with everybody. I have to go there a day because I need it. It's like, I've got ADHD, and I need good dopamine fixes regularly, and going and hanging out with people and talking to them, connecting and chatting is one of my rich dopamine fixes. So that stuff is pretty vital to me, really, on a daily basis. Otherwise, I do find that it affects me quite heavily. But I think COVID was good for finding that stuff out.
Right. So when you're doing the blank pod and UnQuestionable, how liberating was it when you could be in a room with your guests as opposed to doing it over Zoom?
Oh, I mean, it's been really great with UnQuestionable to go and actually sit in rooms with people. I think you do get that energy off other people it's I don't know, you can't really replicate here. Yeah. But having said that, it's great that the benefit of also having Zoom is that you can talk to people wherever, whenever, kind of thing. And, there's something to be said for that. And I think that, again, that was in COVID, like during the pandemic, that was just to be able to have that. It was really, comforting to be able to actually still do the pod and carry on doing stuff, because I think I was at the beginning of like the pandemic. Jim and I were like, for blank, we were like, we need to have to take a break for a bit. Now, if we'd done that, we probably wouldn't have made another podcast, probably. But the fact that we were able to do it over Zoom and stuff, that was really, really useful. But I think you're right. I think actually meeting up with people is like that extra layer of, I don't know, just having that energy in the room. You can feel it, sort of palpable almost.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was going to say I'll forever be thankful for COVID. That's not the right thing to put. But for Zoom and that, because if I hadn't been for Zoom, we'd have never spoken for the first time. It's a kind of weird thing that I think for podcasters of our level, it definitely opened up the world a lot more in the fact that you could get, and because a lot of, not necessarily yourself, but a lot of actors and that during that time had nothing to do. So you know, when I can remember sending messages and that to certain actors and saying, "Oh, any chance you come on our podcast?" "Oh, terribly busy. Sorry, can't." They never had an excuse during COVID. You knew that they weren't doing anything.
Yeah.
So we managed to get sort of got access to quite a few people that you would have in any other circumstances. But it's weird because we always used to have in this very room, that this is where we used to do our podcasts, and since COVID, so what was that, over 3 years now, we haven't had, it's always been on Zoom. And I must admit, like you say, I do miss that sort of face to face. There's definitely a different kind of vibe, I think, when you've got the person right there in front of you as opposed to 2 screens in front of you.
It's definitely a different way of doing it. I've noticed that massively, actually, going back to doing it with Soph, and there's a different, you bring a different energy to it as well. Like as a host, I think I'm probably more on my toes in real life than I am on Zoom. It's weird.
I do think it's easier to stifle a yawn on Zoom than it is when you've got the person.
It definitely
when you've got the person right in front of you. So how is the Unquestionable podcast going? Because, like I say, I'm absolutely gutted for you in regards to Blank. I don't know what you can or can't say in regards to why it's gone away, but it was a great podcast. I mean, you had some amazing guests there. But is that now sort of completely dead and buried, or?
So we had sort of, I can't say too much because we had we had sort of some contractual kind of disagreements, and do you know what, sometimes these moments are gifts. You know, a friend of mine's been for a project recently that didn't work out, and I said, you know what, it's a gift, because actually Jim and I have just got so much other stuff on, and then you can't put that energy back into that thing that that you love, and we don't want to do it half-heartedly.
No.
And it's been amazing. Like, it's opened so many doors for me. I've had so many wonderful conversations with people. And I think we just, both of us were like mutually like, do you know what? I think it's time to call this a day, really. Like, it just feels, I think when you just feel it in your gut almost like that, do you know what? I don't know if we're really, I think if we wanted to do it more, we'd find a way. Find a way. And I think it was a good signal from the universe that actually, do you know what? That's we've got lots of other things going on. Jim's doing loads of filming, and he's doing like a load of online TV stuff, which is he loves doing that, and that's the thing that really lights him up. So, and he's got loads of, he does, he's got a really successful TikTok site and stuff. So he's always making content, and that's cool. It's groovy. Like, I'm like, and the thing is as well, you can, I think with these things, you can carry on trying to do it, and then you end up like getting pissed off with one another and all that. I don't want it to be. We don't want it to be that. We want it to end on a high kind of thing. We've gone out on our own terms and all that kind of stuff. We don't want it to kind of just peter away like some projects do. So it's nice to be able to sort of have that autonomy over it. But it was, but at the same time, it has been kind of like upsetting because it's our little baby,
Does it end up being a little bit like an itch you can't scratch, talking sort of like from the mental health side, in the fact that, I mean, I don't suppose you really had it's your decision to sort of say, we're not going to do it anymore, but if the whole contract thing hadn't happened, you'd still be doing it, I'd assume.
No, for sure. And yes, I think I will miss that aspect of it. I mean, we talk on obviously with Unquestionable, we go in that area, but it's not quite as focused. It's more about self-development stuff. It's actually like a slightly different kind of concept altogether. But I think I will miss those kind of candid conversations that are very organically moving towards like people's mental health. It's not like we go out to talk about mental health necessarily, but it always comes up, and I think I will miss that aspect of it, for sure. I'm really lucky though, and I say this all the time, because I've got other outlets for my mental health. I've got my writing, I've got music, I still play music, I play in a couple of bands. I will always find something to get my mental health, to be able to process my mental health through art in some way. So I always feel really grateful for that I've got that, because I know not everybody does have that kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
And so I always lead. That's what I mean when I have those difficult times. I do try and lean into like the things that I'm already doing, like music, you know, like writing lyrics and writing songs and playing, or writing. You know, the writing always has been a real good crutch for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think even taking blank out of the equation, I will find some way of finding an art form to like I don't know, spew my guts out.
Do you check in on yourself, like mental health wise, every day or every week, or is it like, do you think I'm having a little bit of a dip, so maybe I just feel like I need to write a book or play some music? Because I don't do that. It tends to be when the dark clouds come through and the big black bear is coming through. That's when I think, shit, I'm in trouble. I don't tend to look at it. I don't know whether you should. I don't know whether it's a thing that you know, a psychotherapist would say you shouldn't really be looking at yourself that much every day. But I don't know. What do you do?
Yeah, I've always been reactive. I've never been proactive about those things. I think having, like I said, I've done this course of CBT and it's been very useful for learning some new skills. I mean, the big thing about CBT is you get like loads of homework that you have to do, like stuff that you've got to do. You know, you're unpicking, you know, I'm 46 years old. I'm unpicking 46 years pretty much of thought patterns and traumas. And then, you know, trying to rework that stuff, you know, it takes time. There's lots of exercises that they kind of give you to do around, like, yeah, that kind of checking in thing. Like if you're in a moment of anxiety or depression, that you're going in and then you're writing out how that's manifesting itself kind of mentally and physically, and then going through those different processes to figure out actually, you know, why your thought patterns are like that and how you can actually change them and think differently about them. So I've started to a bit, but it's really difficult to do that. I think like it's, you know, being introspective and reflective is really hard. I think I think I will always struggle with that. I don't, you know, because I think there's too many other things that I like go to, like I say, ruminating and people pleasing and you know, yeah, I don't do it, and I think we probably should all be doing that. Really, I think it is only in that. Sorry, I was going to say, I think it is only in those moments when I'm like maybe writing something or doing something, and I'll be looking at it and think, oh shit, like I should have been checking in on myself, like, because if I'm writing that, I'm probably not 100% groovy.
Well, I don't know whether it's because you saying that, and it makes me think it's sort of like it's that kind of thing I'd rather not know. If I'm pottering around and I'm fine and everything's great and everything's like, it's a nice straight road, nice and level, and everything's fine. Do I really want to every day be digging into myself? And then, because then I might actually find something that then all of a sudden makes the road a bit bumpy, and all of a sudden, before I know it, I've got a massive fucking hill to climb. Yeah. And I don't know whether it's sort of, it kind of makes me think it's the same as like, you should always check yourself for lumps and bumps and stuff. And I think if I check myself, I might find something. Yeah. And if I find something, that's a whole fucking heap of trouble. And I know that you should, because the earlier you find it and all that stuff, but I kind of don't want to know. And I don't know whether that adds more anxiety, because then you'll think I said this on, I think, the episode with Charlotte, who was a psychotherapist, that I look at myself and I see a lot of people that talk about mental health and they say, like yourself, there's a lot of trauma in their past. Thinking about it now, I had a wonderful childhood. I'm very, very lucky that I had a wonderful mum and dad, a very young mum and dad who are still with me. So I haven't had to go through that loss yet. And I know that sooner or later I will have to. And I don't know how I'll react to that. I really don't know. But as every day goes on, I know I'm getting closer and closer to having to deal with that kind of loss. And it does worry me. It really, because I get, you know, these bouts of depression and anxiety over nothing. So how the hell am I going to react when something as cataclysmic as that is going to happen? I don't really know if there's a question there, Giles. I was just trying to think. It was what you just said. Then it really made me think that it's like if you start rummaging around, you might worry about what you find.
Well, yeah, no, I'd probably say that I've been in that situation before where I've been thinking I need to rummage around and like don't want to go there. But I do think like if I totally hear what you're saying. I think that's it, that there is something to be said for that, for sure. Like, do you want to be going down that rabbit hole?
Is that just me being a coward, though? Is that me just not wanting to face up and be a man about it and think, look, you need to face these up and face them head on?
Well, I don't think it's about being a coward. I don't think it's cowardly. I think you know how your depression manifests itself, so you don't want to be feeling that way. So I don't think that's cowardly. Like, I don't think
literally poking the bear.
Literally, you are. Yeah. And but then I guess to work through some of these things, we do have to do the work. Like it's I think when you're working on yourself, it is work, so it's not going to be necessarily easy. I think like I haven't done a lot of therapy in my life. I've had group therapy before, like when I was, after my dad died, I went through a group therapy thing, which was weird, and I would never really recommend it to anybody, but I'm sure it works for some. And that, I didn't really get much out of that. But I think doing this sort of CBT recently has really opened my eyes to the idea that actually when you do dig around a little bit and you do start to figure yourself out a little bit more of that how beneficial that can be. Now, I'm not saying like I'm going to be amazing going forwards. I'm going to be like the happiest man in the world. But I think just having some ideas and like giving yourself some practices to do going forward, I think it can only be beneficial, really. I'm not going to say, I'm not saying that I'm never going to be depressed or anxious ever again.
No.
Of course, it's impossible not to do those things. But like, I think we could all do with a little bit of rummaging sometimes. And as painful as it might be, and it is painful. Like there was some of the sessions I was coming out of, I was like, I don't want to do it anymore. That was fucking horrible.
Yeah.
Feeling so triggered by so many things that were going, and people pick up on it. Like my therapist, Mary, her name was, she's very nice. She would be like, you're finding today really hard, aren't you? And I'm like, yeah, because I'd be shutting down. Like, I don't want to talk about this. But then like you go back the next week and you're like, do you know what? I feel I've thought about what we were doing last week, and actually, I'm okay. I'm feeling all right. It hasn't had any lasting damage. Let's go again, kind of thing. So I don't know. It's not for everybody, those sort of things, and I'm not here to like just bang on about how great CBT is. There's loads of great therapies out there. I think we can I mean, it's again going back to that connecting and talking about things. I think, I don't know. I know coming off this call today, I'm going to feel uplifted, even though we're talking about challenging things. I know that I'll be thinking, oh, good. I had a really candid conversation with Pav about all these things that maybe I'm thinking about myself at the moment, and I'll feel better for it. So I think there's a benefit for talking, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, I've only ever tried CBT once when I had a bit of a breakdown of about 5 or 6 years ago now, and I don't know whether it was when you did yours. Were you in a room with somebody talking to somebody?
No,
we were
over Zoom.
Yeah, I did it over a phone call, and it really, for me, and I said this on a previous episode, it just felt to me the person I was talking to was checking things off a list. It didn't feel very human to me, and it kind of put me off it a little bit. Now I'm not a spiritual kind of person. I don't sort of believe in any of that side of thing. Do you feel to get the most out of something like CBT, you've got to be a bit spiritual and in touch with your like inner self and that kind of thing, or not?
I don't think so. And interesting you saying about like maybe not having the right therapist. I think sometimes it's about having the right person to do it with. Like, right. Funny enough, Mary, the first couple of sessions we had, I was like, I'm not sure if I don't know, there doesn't seem like the right energy here. And then we sort of got through it. And then actually I was like, do you know what? She's actually really good. And,
right.
and we had a rapport and stuff. And, but I think it is about finding the right person. I think sometimes, you might get, I mean, it's human nature. It's not, we're not going to have the same thing with everybody. So perhaps maybe it wasn't the right person. I'm not saying CBT might not be the thing for you. I mean, it might not be. Like, it's, you know, there's lots of different things out there. But yeah, what was your question again?
You know what, Giles? I was just listening to you and listening to your voice. I've forgotten as well. I think it was more of the spirituality thing.
Oh, the spirituality, yeah. Yeah, no, I don't.
You just mesmerise me with what you say, you see, and it just yeah.
But I do think like, so I think, it's I'm not so. Sometimes you can get put off these things. I've talked to my friend recently who's had several different therapists, and they haven't been right, but he's wanted to pursue the faith. He feels like he's got stuff he wants to work through. He's eventually found someone that he absolutely loves, and it's working so well for him. And he's you know, because he's found the right person to do it with. So I think there is sometimes that human connection has to be right. But I think doing it over the phone is tricky. I don't know. But spirituality, I don't know if you need to have any spirituality with CBT, really. I think it's workmanlike, like, for want of a better phrase, CBT. It's kind of working through these processes of why you think the way you do and how you break cycles. I mean, that's what we did when I was doing it. It was about, like, so you think this, and then it leads you to this, and then those thoughts manifest physically in you, and then because because you're having physical manifestations like anxiety, feeling down, and or actually physically feeling, you know, sick, or like not in the stomach, those kind of things, heart palpitations, then you're leading on to, like, the worst feelings, the feeling down, the feeling depressed, blah blah blah, and it just goes round in this circle again and again and again, and you're trying to break this circle at some point so that you don't keep going round and round and round, because that's what happens. And then you're ruminating, you just keep going round and round and round, and you're mind reading, and you're doing all this. You know, I'm going to send you a video that my therapist sent me about all those things. How we, you know, how our thought processes work. I played to my son, my youngest. He suffers. He's had, like, very difficult, like, teenage years. He's been very very angsty, which, you know, a lot of teenagers get. But he's really struggled. He's really struggled with his mental health.
Yeah.
And we sat and watched this video, and I could just see, like, he was like, "Oh, shit, that's me. Oh, and that's me. Oh, and that's me as well. Oh, all these things are me." And it's just that dawning realization that actually these things are, I don't want to say fixable, but they're things that you can work on.
Have the tools to try and
have you put the tools in place. So anyway, I've gone off on a tangent, but with regards to spirituality, I don't know if you need to be particularly spiritual for CBT.
No. Well, I do feel that one of the results of doing the podcast is that I'm gonna look at some kind of therapy, get some kind, just to because I'm not. I mean, I'm talking here as somebody that suffers from depression, not as somebody who is a professional. You know, and it was fascinating talking to Charlotte on our second episode, because obviously she's coming in from somebody that has dealt with both sides. She's dealt with depression and anxiety and trauma in her life, but she's also now a psychotherapist, so she's seeing it from both sides. So it's fascinating having that. But I just wanted to say a bit more about UnQuestionable as well, because on our other podcast we've had Sophie as a guest, and you know, you've become just a massive friend to us now. Just well, I would hate, not just from podcasting. You know, we haven't really. Yeah. I'm still waiting for that curry with you and Nick Campbell that we talked about.
I know we need to do that, don't we?
We talked about that during COVID. That was, wasn't it?
I know. Yeah, he's not kept up his end of the bargain.
He absolutely hasn't. You will have to you'll have to get on his ass for that, definitely.
I will.
So obviously UnQuestionable is carrying on, and again, I don't know how you do it. It's kind of like the vibe I want from this podcast, is where you feel like you're just dropping in on a conversation with a couple of people that you are friends with. How did that podcast come about?
Oh, well, I mean, Sophie and I are like thick as thieves. We're best mates, and we've been like, she lives up the road from me, so we like hang out all the time. Yeah, I've been like a big champion of her work. Like, I think she's just incredible, and we just become mates. And we were talking about. I keep saying to her, "You should do a podcast." Like, I know, like, I think I can see her doing broadcasting of some sort at some point.
Yeah,
and
She's very natural. Yeah,
yeah. And I said, like, you should do a podcast. I think, and then for ages I was saying, like, giving her loads of ideas and stuff, and then I was like, should we just do one together? Because that, like, we've like, we're so close and fond of each other. Like, why don't we just do it together? And it'll be easy because it will be you and me doing it. And we can talk about the stuff that we talk about outside of, this is sort of stuff we talk on the podcast is stuff we're talking about all the time. Like we've done manifestation kind of courses together and self-development stuff, and she's super into that stuff, and I'm always happy to talk about it with her. And it's just the stuff that we're into. So she didn't want to do it about art and stuff. That's her day job. She wanted to talk about the stuff that she's interested in. So that's kind of how it came about. And then it was really quick. Like I said that, should we do a podcast? She got excited about it. And then like a week later, we were making the artwork and like coming up with the idea and the concept and the name. And like I was booking guests and we were like straight in there with it. Like no messing about. I can't be bothered to like talk about these things for months and months on end. Let's just crack on, basically. And then also you figure out quickly enough if it's going to work or not. Like if you start doing it, and of course, like it's been lovely and really enjoyable and a great antidote to everything that's going on in the world. It's just nice to go and sit with people and talk to them about interesting subjects. I've learned so much already. We've only done like sort of 15, 16 episodes, but we're talking to people about, and it's a bit different to Blank in that we still get some high profile people on, but it's more experts, thought leaders and stuff like that, which is, it's interesting to do a slightly different kind of set of people, I guess. And talking, and then when we talk to a lot of high profile people, it's about a specific subject. Like we had David Baddiel on and we were talking about religion.
Yeah.
That
was
and
a good
stuff
episode.
like that.
Yeah. Robin Ince was a good episode.
Robin Ince is great. He's just like a ball of energy. And so things like that. It's nice to be able to, talk to high profile people, but about something very specifically themed, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
But it's just great. It's just lovely to be able to do. You do a podcast with your best mate. It's just nice to be able to do that with like your best mate, and get to hang out, and we have little trips up to London, and it's just a little adventure, and we laugh lots and mess around, and it's good.
Yeah, I would thoroughly recommend it. I'll put the link in the show notes for UnQuestionable. And I'm looking forward, in the new year, we're going to sort out on the top 10 of anything podcast. We're going to have a foursome, aren't we, Giles?
I would love that.
Me, you, Sophie, and Neil. I think we just need to find a really good subject to do a top 10
I know. We keep saying to us, literally, I messaged her yesterday and said, look, we need to come up with this idea, top 10 podcast. So we'll come up with something really good that we can all have a chinwag about. Yeah, I'd love to do that.
I think that'll be lots of fun. I can't thank you enough, Giles. I mean, I didn't cry as much as I didn't cry at all. So I think you should be a therapist as well. I think you did really well.
I don't know. Well. I don't feel like I maybe didn't push you to the edge enough.
We'll do that for the part 2 of the episode. I mean, do you want to tell everybody how they can get in touch with you and listen to all of your content and watch and read and stuff?
Well, the best thing is to find me on social media, really, which is at EliIsTender10. So it's EliIsTender10. And you can pretty much find out about what I'm doing on Instagram, Twitter. I'm going to still call it Twitter.
I always do.
Yeah, Twitter.
I don't understand why everyone goes X, formerly known as Twitter.
I know. It's like Prince. It's like, isn't it? Like the sign that formerly known as Prince.
Yeah, you just made the title longer. You've got one letter in your title now, and you've just made it longer.
Yeah, I know.
Ridiculous.
And do you know what? Guarantee in about 18 months' time it will be back to being called Twitter again.
Yeah, because they can't even change the website name. It's still twitter.com. So you might as well just keep calling it that.
Yeah.
Oh, Elon, Nonsense. What are you doing? What are you doing? But yeah, I'll put the link of that in the show notes as well. And like I say, in the darkness and the shitty dark water of social media, Giles is the little sliver of light. He genuinely is. He'll stick his head up in the parapet for things, and sometimes will get his ass bitten. But thank God bless you. I mean, I say I don't believe in God, but God bless you, Giles. Yeah. For all that you
thanks,
do.
Pam. No, I really appreciate that. But yeah, I mean, look, life is challenging from time to time, and I think if you can lean into those things you love in those dark moments, and try and find people to talk to and reach out to, then I think that's all you could ever really try and do with it, and I just hope that hope things start to ease off for you, and you.
They will. There's always another day, as we say, and the sun will shine tomorrow, I'm sure. If you want to email us, Big Black Bear Podcast. No, I'll start that again. I've got to get this right. It's a new pod, so I'm always getting this wrong. bigblackbearpod@gmail.com. Then it's on Facebook and Instagram, it's Big Black Bear Podcast. And on X, formerly known as Twitter, shit, I wasn't going to say that. It's Big Black Bear Pod. And then you can see the podcast on YouTube, and it's also on all good podcast providers. Don't forget, UnQuestionable Podcast. The link is in the show notes. And also, if you want to listen to something a bit different, the Top 10 of Anything podcast with my pod bro Neil is there. Giles, once again, thank you so much for joining us. Have a lovely rest of the day.
Take it easy, man.
And that'll do. Bye, friends.